Hi my friends. So wild pigment, where do you even start? Yesterday we went out and looked around in Ohio and found some rocks. That's where it starts. You've got to collect rocks. The best rocks are rocks that feel a little bit rough to the touch, that chip off easily, into smaller pieces. And that makes a nice, smooth kind of a paint. So the rocks that I got from Cleveland, the Cleveland area, are these rocks that we looked at in yesterday's video. The day before, I was in Bemidji, I think the day before, 2 days before, and picked up some rocks in Bemidji, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but Bemidji rocks have a little bit of mica in them also. So this also, it breaks down. It's not as rough feeling, but it's rough enough, but there's some glitter. You see that glitter going on in there? That's embedded mica that's in there too, which makes it really an interesting paint. But the mica doesn't stick very well. And so there's two things you have to do in order to make the mica stick. But back to the process. So you grab yourself a rock. I'm in a hotel room, so I don't like to make pounding noises too much. I chiseled some off, but I also was able to break off some pretty good sized chunks. And you put that in your mortar and pestle. Now this is my little traveling mortar and pestle. It's a scientific grade one. And what you do is you stick your rock chunks right in there. And that's what they started off, it looked like this. They were pretty big. And then you tap, 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 stir, 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 grind until you've got a pretty consistent looking powder inside there. And then you sieve it through a sieve. Now this is an old tea sieve, which works really nice. The mesh is, let's see, where are you? The mesh is nice and fine. I don't know what measurement mesh it is. It's best if you can use things that you have already on hand, especially if you're not just real rich. And you pour this powder into your sieve. Oh, I should tell you, when you're grinding powder also, you should probably wear a face mask, because you don't want to breathe that dust. It's hard to know what's toxic and what isn't. And like silica, for example, it can give you bad sicknesses if you get too much of it in your lungs. So use your paintbrush and just get all that into your sieve. And then sieve it out, just like you're putting powdered sugar on a cake. And you'll have some chunks left over, just stick them back in there. We'll grind those down just a little bit more. And what you're going to end up with is a nice, consistent powder. So the next step of that powder, then, is what is called a muller, M-U-L-L-E-R, a muller. And it's a glass plate. Now you could even use, I have a nice platter at home that's a ceramic platter, olden days. And that works really good, so you don't have to just do small amounts. But we're in travel mode here, so we're doing small amounts. And so this muller, what you do is you put some of your pigment powder on there. We're going to add to it some watercolor medium that I mixed up at home. There you go, watercolor medium. Backwards. And at a ratio of about 1 to 1. And then what you do is you mow just in round and around motions to incorporate the medium into the powder, and that's what makes your paint. So let me just show you how that works here. So let's put just a little bit on there. Since again, we're in travel mode. I guess we're gonna have just a little more on there, I think. It's gonna kind of spread out, make a little bit of a hole in there. And we'll start with, let's just put some 1, 2, 3. Right now it looks like oil and water trying to mix. Can you see that? Where it doesn't really want to mix very well. So you put yourself a little pool on there, and we can add more pigment later if we need to. And so with a palette knife, you just start mixing it. Might have to move you up here so you can see a top bird's eye view. So it's definitely too dry, so we're going to add a little bit more of the medium. Now the medium, I can't tell you the exact recipe that I have because I forgot my notebook at home. But this medium will last me this entire trip. It is basically hot water, gum arabic, honey, glycerin, ox gall, and a little bit of, I think it's sodium benzoate is what I got for a preservative. In the olden days, they would have, I'm using wild honey, and that's pretty good for a preservative. But in today's world, since we have a chemical preservative, that's what I'm using. I'm not being a hardcore purist here, although I would like to do it that way. Okay, so let's see here if I can get you a better view here of what's going on. I apologize, this is a little bit of an odd thing here. I forgot my tripod at home, so and I don't have a laptop anymore, so the video, I'll post this here right directly to Facebook, so you see a little bit of how the process is. But my end product, that will end up, I'll do a series of videos throughout the day that the software program that I have makes a little short video compilation according to what it thinks is important that day. And so you'll get a little bit of look, and then it puts music to it, although I figured out how to get rid of some of the sound. So this is what we're doing. Can you hear? Let me stop talking, so can you hear it? Still a little gritty sounding, which is where the actual muller then comes in. I got started to be incorporated now. Yeah, sorry about that. This is really rough. You're getting it on the fly here. Won't be much, actually, zero editing that I can do, so I apologize for that. But so this, you round and around and around and around and around, and it's turning into a paste right before my eyes. And it wants to goop up on here, so we scrape it off. Scrape everything back into the middle here. And we mull it a little bit more. The more incorporated it is, the better it sticks to your watercolor paper. Let's see here if I can get from the top down just to give you a little bit of a, it's kind of hard to do one-handed, but it's just a stick that kind of wants to stick, but that's what you're going, is around and around and around like that. And this is what the glass looks like. It looks like you're getting, it just spreads out and spreads out and spreads out, so you have to scrape it back to the middle again. Scrape it back to the middle again. After you've done this a few, painting's worth. It's kind of like baking bread, where you just get the feel by how it looks and feels, how much of the medium needs to go in, how much of the rocks, depending on the consistency of the rocks, the composition of the rock, takes more or less medium. But we start off basically with a 1-to-1 ratio of the pigment powder to the medium. Okay, we're going to do just a tiny little bit more here. We are so close. Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay, there's not much going on there at all. I think we're ready. So then we put it in, our pigment, in a little pan like this. And just like your mother taught you when you were making cake or hot dish or whatever you're making when you're young, scrape it all out. You could be leaving 6 bites worth of food in that pan if you don't scrape it out. 6 bites worth of food would feed a 6-year-old for a day, she would say. Well, it's the same kind of a thing. A little bit of paint goes a really long way, so we really want to scrape it all. Get it in our pan. Oops. Oh, the color here is kind of a rich, orangey, browny mud color that I think will be lovely. I thought it would have a little more yellow to it, but it doesn't. It's actually it has. It's not really a neutral color. Oh, it's just a really pretty color. Okay, so then I would be doing that again with more, since I've got more pigment. I would be doing that again, but I want to show you here real quick how you test it. So you get yourself. Maybe we'll move you up here so if you can see me better. Maybe I'll put you on a rock. Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna just do a little bit of a test swatch here to see what kind of a color we get. And let's see here, the brush here, I think I will. I think I'll use this one here. And we'll make it a little bit wet. Okay. And now, let's just test the color of this. Oh, paper's a little bit too wet. A little bit too wet. Maybe I'll use my blotter and blot that just a little bit. Blotter here when you're doing watercolor. If you get a roll of toilet paper and put paper towel over top of it, then you, oops, some leftover paint there from the Midgie. Then you can blot as you go. Blot. It's good to blot your brush every now and then when you're painting. Okay, so now let's just see the test of whether or not it is mold good enough is whether or not it will stay on the paper. Oh, what a pretty color this is. Let's add just a little bit more here on the dark side. Oops. Shouldn't have done that. Maybe we'll do it up here on the top. Make a little bit more of a swatch up here. Watercolor, as you probably already know, really has to be done in layers. Okay, so there's not much there to Okay, so this is, I'm gonna let that dry, and it's not coming through as good. If I do a different angle here. So it's definitely a brown. There's a definitely, you can't tell it on, it's not, the camera's not good enough to pick up the fact that there is definitely a yellow tint to it. And the test is that, that's a little gritty, but it stays on. Once it dries, we'll see how much brushes off, and then we'll know if it's mold good enough. Okay, so the plan then for today is I'm going to continue on grinding rocks, making paint, and then I'm going to paint a picture of that river where these came from. And so hopefully by the end of the day, the whole process will be done. So this will get posted directly to YouTube as the overview of what's happening, but I don't have a way to stitch photos together with what little software I have on my phone. And so I'm going to just use the GoPro one that I've been using, which analyzes the day's footage that you've taken and comes up with what it thinks is a good synopsis of the day. And so that's what you've been watching for the last 3 days. It's not quite as satisfying as making your own video, but at least gives you a little bit of a look at what I saw during the day. So the video, the GoPro video then at the end of the day will be these snips put together. And if I stop and do any talking, it picks up some of the talking and I can make that come through, but some of it, it's just going to be, you're going to see the bits and pieces, probably not even in chronological order, of the grinding of the rocks, the mulling of the rocks, and then the process of painting a picture. So that is the plan for today. And there will be 2 videos, and when I post this one tonight, and then I will also post the synopsis one. Okay, thanks so much for coming along on this journey. I'm just really excited. I should probably tell you the theory behind this is I just really think, as I've been thinking about native artwork, the paints that people made, warriors made in the olden days, and the artistry that you even find on cave walls or as time moved forward, had to have been drawn from the raw materials that they had right there on their own land, which is why I think when we look at artwork, especially native artwork or artwork that is just a depiction of life, in the day that an artist lives in, those colors, it's pretty easy to identify the time period or sometimes even the place. If you paint in Georgia, you're going to have kind of red overtones because their rocks are and soil is red. Whereas in the Southwest, you've got the greens and the peaches and the things, because that's probably the color of the native rock. And so that's my experiment this year. I'm starting a Patreon page, which I'll talk more about later. If this is interesting to you and you want to help finance this experiment that I'll be doing, crossing the nation, going to places, picking up rock, grinding the rock, painting a picture of that place. If that intrigues you, we'll talk more about that later. But for today, this is it. We're going to do a picture of Ohio using native rock with a synopsis of the day. So I will talk to you later.